I woke to the piercing crack of hammers against nails before dawn, my vision blurred by the soft gray light filtering through the curtains, and my heart jolted as I realized the surreal scene unfolding outside my window. There she stood, HOA Karen, all 30 pounds of self-appointed authority, her Kodak and spandex frame straining against her polo shirt as she shouted orders at a gaggle of contractors wielding power tools on my front lawn. My pulse thundered in my ears when I noticed the thin copper stakes marking the outline of my home's foundation had been nudged closer to the property line by exactly 3 feet, just as her crimson lips curled into that smug, victorious grin. Before I could gather shoes or words, she pointed an accusatory finger at my prickly rose bush, her voice booming. "You built beyond your property line. Move that entire house 3 feet west or pay the price." The cold air snapped around me as fury ignited inside. My house, a labor of love built block by block with sweat and dreams, reduced at her whim to a toy in her power trip. I stormed outside, adrenaline fueling each step, but as I opened my mouth to unleash rebuke, Karen held up a laminated HOA guideline sheet typed in jargon so dense you'd need a law degree to parse it, claiming she'd discovered a decades-old survey granting her jurisdiction. I swallowed the bile rising in my throat, my vision narrowing to her self-righteous face and the stakes beneath her boots. But I refused to crumble under her spectacle. Seizing a deep breath, I raised my phone in one hand, thumb brushing the livestream button, eyes mirroring unyielding resolve. "Hello, neighbors," I announced, voice steady as the camera zoomed out to capture Karen's tirade and the flurry of drilling around my foundation. "I'm Liv from 142 Maple Avenue, where HOA Karen is illegally trespassing and demanding I physically move my home 3 feet to satisfy her fantasies of power." Instant notifications pinged as viewers flocked to watch. Karen's smirk flickered, her composure wavering for a heartbeat when she realized the spotlight had shifted. Undeterred, I pressed record. Her assertion that Section 4.1 of the covenants requires adjustment tumbled from her lips. I countered calmly. Section 4.1 only applies to fences, not structures. This charter dissolved 5 years ago after a majority vote. "May I see your record of authority?" Her eyes narrowed, and sweat glistened on her brow as the assembled work crew paused, drilling suspended midair. Silence rippled through the digital crowd. With a quick pivot, I held up the certificate of dissolution, crisp and official, bearing signatures of 2/3 of homeowners alongside county clerk stamps. "HOA dissolved in March 2020, I declared. Karen's face slackened in disbelief as murmurs swept through the chat. Someone in the comments shouted, "Check her permit." Another posted a link to the live stream of our board meeting vote. Karen's voice grew shrill as she tried to reassert control. "You can't talk over me. This lawsuit is already filed." But I cut her off, revealing a filing receipt dated 2 months earlier titled not by her but by me, titled Petition for Declaratory Judgment Against Unauthorized HOA Acts. The sly twist caught her off guard. She staggered under the weight of her own hubris. As the contractors backed away, power tools clattered to the grass, I advanced one confident step. "Karen, you're facing trespass, harassment, and attempted coercion charges. We're stopping work until the sheriff arrives." The real twist came when my neighbor, Mrs. Patel, whom Karen had terrorized for years over a single hibiscus planting, appeared from her porch, courage radiating as she proclaimed on camera, "I'm here to testify I never signed a covenant waiver giving you authority." Her crisp voice rippled through viewers' speakers like thunder. Then my childhood friend, Jorge the county surveyor, strolled out, leveling a calibrated laser down the property line, verifying that indeed my house stood wholly on my land and Karen's supposed boundary markers were fraudulent. Karen's eyes widened in horror as the truth unfolded before hundreds watching live. The tension reached a crescendo as distant sirens wailed, Sheriff Ramirez racing onto the scene with flashing lights illuminating the early morning haze. He stepped out onto the overturned power tools and leveled his gaze at Karen, stern and unyielding. I handed him my phone showing the live stream comments. Outraged neighbors, legal experts, and even local reporters demanding accountability. Ramirez approached Karen, who tried to insist she was enforcing valid regulations. He held up the dissolution certificate and the surveyor's notes. Then he read her rights. "Ma'am, you are under citation for willful trespass, vandalism of property, and filing fraudulent documents." Karen's face crumpled, tears of shame replacing her former arrogance as the officer pinned the citation to her vest. The hush that followed felt monumental, as though the world paused to acknowledge the downfall of a tyrant. In the aftermath, the live stream soared to tens of thousands of views. Local news helicopters buzzed overhead, capturing the battered remains of Karen's ego scattered across my lawn. Her lawyer hurriedly released a statement claiming misunderstanding, but the video evidence dilapidated any shred of credibility she might have salvaged. As for me, I stepped forward into the frame one last time, voice warm yet resolute, and said, "Entitlement meets accountability. Today share your story of standing up to invisible powers, and let's remind everyone that no house, no matter how grand, can stand on stolen ground. If you've ever been bullied by a self-appointed enforcer in your neighborhood, share in the comments. Was this justice served? Or did we cut Karen too deeply?" From the hushed shock of Karen's citation onward, the neighborhood pulsed with a renewed sense of empowerment and cautious optimism, as if a collective weight had lifted. My phone, once a conduit for casual chatter and weekend plans, became a nexus for stories from every corner of town. Messages poured in. Mr. Alvarez from Elm Street sent a shaky clip of Karen fining him for a faded mailbox number he'd painted himself, only to find relief when we forwarded the dissolution certificate. Sarah, the high school guidance counselor, shared how she sat through years of Karen's admonishments about inappropriate holiday decor, then found courage to install her pride flag years earlier than planned. Even my dentist chimed in on our group chat, grateful he could finally display his antique dentist's chair on his porch as a whimsical nod to his craft without fear of reprisal. Meanwhile, the legal system began to stir. Within days, the county attorney's office publicly acknowledged receipt of our recorded evidence and announced a preliminary inquiry into potential patterns of fraudulent activity by the former HOA leadership. A formal task force was convened, composed of county lawyers, independent homeowners, and myself, an unexpected honor that felt like vindication of my choice to document rather than rage. Invitations arrived by email. "We invite your testimony regarding the enforcement of expired covenants and the impact of unauthorized HOA acts on community well-being." I drafted my statements carefully, framing our story not as a personal vendetta but as a lesson in collective rights and civic responsibility. In the private corridors of power, Karen found herself scrambling. Her attorney, once confident, began sending terse emails requesting extensions or vague settlement talks. But neighbors who had once feared her now recoiled at the idea of a quiet payoff. The simmering outrage across social media made compromise untenable. "No more hush agreements," one local blogger wrote. "We deserve transparency, not forced compliance." Streets bore hastily taped signs reading, "Our town, our rules, and no more secret HOAs." A few brave souls printed flyers offering pro bono legal assistance to anyone still under outdated HOA restrictions. Midway through this upheaval came an unexpected twist. A surge of interest from a national news magazine exploring the phenomenon of microdespots in gated communities. A journalist named Claire Emerson reached out, her initial email acknowledging our live stream's viral impact and requesting interviews. Her questions probed deeper than my single incident. She wanted to know why HOAs wielded unchecked power, how communities could reclaim autonomy, and where the line between order and tyranny was drawn. Preparing for her piece, I realized our local skirmish resonated with countless other suburbs grappling with similar abuses, and that our story offered a blueprint for resistance. The day the feature was published, Claire's article titled, "When a Cactus Challenged a Karen," splashed across nationwide outlets. It wove together my narrative, Jenna's testimony, and interviews with legal scholars who decried HOA overreach. The piece concluded with a powerful quote, "In every crack of tyranny lies a chance for justice to bloom, if only one person plants the seed of dissent." Overnight, residents from other states sent me messages. Requests for advice on dissolving defunct HOAs, stories of their own Karen-like tyrants, and invitations to speak at municipal meetings. Back home, Sheriff Ramirez invited me to join a community forum, he hosted on local governance. Under the fluorescent lights of the county building, I spoke alongside neighborhood association leaders and county board members, sharing the lessons learned. Always verify the legal status of your governing bodies, maintain transparent records of votes, and cultivate solidarity among neighbors so no single individual can monopolize power. The room crackled with engagement. Attendees scribbled notes, asked pointed questions, and pledged to audit their own HOA agreements. I watched Jenna beam from the audience, her presence a living testament to the power of youth voices. As autumn painted the maples in brilliant hues, I walked my rebuilt front porch where the new reinforced planter held my cactus, now healthy and thriving. Its emerald arms stretched confidently toward the sky, a living symbol of resilience. Children waved as they passed, and neighbors paused to greet me by name, their smiles genuine and relieved. A subtle shift had settled over the street. Fences once carefully aligned to HOA specs stood at varying heights and colors, blossoms of personal expression unfettered by fear. Yet Karen, now largely absent from community events, cast a lingering shadow in court filings. She appealed her citations, attempting to claim ignorance of the HOA's dissolution, but her petition was swiftly dismissed when the judge reviewed the bona fide county record. In a final indignity, the court ordered her to pay restitution for legal fees and community damages amounts that dwarfed her years of petty fines. The ruling underscored a judicial message. Self-appointed sovereignty dissolves under the weight of documented truth. On the anniversary of our confrontation, Jenna and I organized Coyote Court, a playful mock trial in the park where neighbors enacted skits about HOA absurdities, fines for sidewalk cracks, bans on hurricane flags, even regulations against hanging fairy lights. We erected a makeshift bench for judges, complete with robes borrowed from the theater group, and sat Karen's empty chair at the defendant's stand. Laughter rang out as participants detailed their own tales of overreach, turning past fear into catharsis. At the end, I raised a glass of lemonade and thanked the crowd. Today we celebrate democracy, neighbor by neighbor. Cheers echoed, and the sun dipped below the horizon. Looking back on the harrowing dawn when Karen's contractors marched onto my lawn, I recognized that justice is rarely instantaneous. It blooms through persistence, clarity, and the courage to shine light on hidden powers. My cactus survived. Our community thrived. And if any reader still doubts the potency of a single act recorded, reflect for a moment. What small camera could you hold up to reveal a greater truth? Share your story. Do you believe accountability is best served publicly, or do quiet, behind-the-scenes efforts carry equal weight?